Hello, Owen. How are you?
Hello.
Well, first of all, I'd like to welcome you to this live stream, the online launch of your new exhibition. And so I'd like to welcome everyone. I hope everybody can hear us. You to this live stream. I hope everybody can hear us. I can hear some echoing. Hopefully that
I
will
think that was my fault.
disappear.
Sorry, I had Facebook on. I switched it off there.
Great. So yes, welcome everyone. I hope you can hear us all right. And if you'd like to place any comments or questions for Owen later on, feel free to do so in the timeline. The way we're going to do it today, well, first of all, we're going to be playing a very short film that Owen took, a whole movie, as he calls them, a film that Owen made shortly after we installed the exhibition in the gallery at 3 Great Denmark Street. Obviously, under normal circumstances, Owen and myself would be welcoming you to the gallery, but obviously things are different right now. So it's a 3-minute, I think, film, Owen, right? And after that, we'll be playing a 30-minute pre-recorded film, and in conversation that you had with the art historian and art consultant and producer, the great Jackie Ryan. And after that, you and me will come back and we'll take any questions, or you'll take any questions that people might have. How does that sound? So without any further ado, I'm going to play this short film, if you give me a second. First of all, I remove myself and Owen from the stream. Welcome back, Owen.
Thank you. Yeah.
That was a lovely, lovely short film. I think it gives people a good sort of impression of what the exhibition looks like in the gallery.
Yeah, yeah. I called it a home movie because I'm only learning how to use that photo editor, and I have a long way to go, really. But anyway,
Yeah, that's great. So now what we're going to do is we're going to play this pre-recorded in conversation or conversation that you had with the art historian Jackie Ryan, and it's about 30 minutes long. So I would invite people who are listening or watching it, if you have any comments, questions that might emerge during that conversation, just put them in the form of comments, and myself, rather Owen, will try to answer them when we come back after showing this conversation with Jackie. So let me share my screen first of all. And myself and Owen will disappear and let you enjoy.
no problem.
Hi,
No problem.
Hi everyone. Thanks a million for joining me today, Owen. My name is Jackie Ryan. I'm an art historian, and I'm delighted that artist Eoin Mac Lochlainn has asked me to host an in-conversation with him to talk about his upcoming solo show at the Olivier Cornet Gallery. And the exhibition opens on the 18th of April and will run till the 19th of May. And in an ideal world, it would have been for people to go in and see the gallery, and hopefully later in the show they may get to go in and see it in person. But for now, it's online. So I'm sorry now I won't be with you in the gallery to do this, Owen. But look, hopefully we'll do some justice to the work. So thanks a million for asking me to host this.
No, thank you for doing this, really, Jackie. It's difficult, I don't know, for an artist to talk about their own work in a way. It's nice to be able to chat to someone who knows about art, and it's a better way of explaining what we're at, I think.
Yeah, no, well, I've been a fan of your work for an awful long time, and I've really enjoyed seeing it kind of evolve over a long number of years. And I suppose when you mentioned that you had a solo show coming up, the thing that struck me was sort of that you would have been planning it for the last, 2 years. And given the bizarre context that we've been in with the pandemic, I suppose I wondered how that had affected the planning that you had for the exhibition, and how it would have changed both the way you made the work and your own planning for the solo show,
Yeah, maybe the answer to that is that I don't really plan. I kind of hopefully let things happen, and as I said, I was I changed from using oil paint to watercolor in the last few years to to have less of an impact on the environment, really. I thought watercolor, well, you can wash it away with water and that it's not too toxic or anything like that. And but it's quite a different medium, and I've been used to using oil paint and kind of painting. I can't really do that in watercolor, but it actually has a lot of nice things about it as well. It's not all bad. It's interesting to experiment with it, and that's really what I've been at, and kind of seeing, if you like something, you kind of continue with that and see where it goes. And
Yeah.
in the long run, for a long time, I don't like to. Okay, I had a tutor who said you should start with approximate intentions, and then have an idea, but allow the work to kind of go where it wants to go. That's the kind of way I work, really.
Brilliant.
So 2 years ago, I didn't really. Don't tell Olivier, but I didn't really know what I was going to do. But I'm continuing the same kind of work.
Yeah.
For the last good while, really.
Yeah, and I know you've prepared a bit to kind of talk us through some of the work. I'm really excited to see it in the flesh, so to speak, when we can see it. And as I said, hopefully we will get to see it. But what has been brilliant is you have always been very good at photographing your work and about talking about it through your blog on Scéalta Ealaíon. And we've had a few glimpses this week of some of the snippets that Olivier has released. But it would be great if you could talk us through some of the work that you've prepared, and maybe talk a little bit about where the inspiration came from, and some of the context for making the work.
Yeah, well, I have this PowerPoint thing that I'm hopefully going to share with you now. Now,
that's great.
This is working on the slideshow. Okay, it's Glas na Cnoic is the title of the exhibition. It's you know that old Irish proverb is Glas na Cnoic a Wadwing, and it's the faraway hills are green. Or it's another one is Bin Arca Fada in a Buv Harlar. The cows far away have longer horns than our ones, I think. And in a way, it's saying basically, and that's not true. We're okay here. We have enough. What we have is enough. We shouldn't be looking to kind of see what's over the other side, And I suppose that's what I was beginning to think during this lockdown, because we were stuck with our 5 km, and it'd be nice to go up to the mountains, and it'd be nice to go to the sea, but where I live in Harold's Cross, it's too far. It's more than 5 km away. I'll just move it on, I think, because so the idea was that I'd love to be up in the mountains in the heather and the feather bed, and and the bogs and that. Yeah. And these are little pictures I was doing. They're only sort of 5 inches high or something like that. But I was adding them together gradually. You do more and more sketches and add them together in larger compositions. So this was one of them. It was called Portoc or Bogland, And I don't know, I think I have a few details.
Yeah, they're gorgeous, the colours of them. And you've presented these together, haven't you? You've mounted them in the gallery as a sort of a collective of pieces, so that the viewer, when they see them, that you've spent a long time actually photographing them to try and show the concept of where you've put them together as a collection. Am I right?
Well, they're put together. That's stuck there now. It's not going to. I made them into these sort of window shapes, because it's like the world is out there outside the window, and we can only think about where you'd like to go, or I shouldn't be complaining, really. We have a nice garden and that, whereas people in apartments, don't even have a garden, so we're not that badly off. But it's nice to think of places where you could go. That's really what's gone on with Glas na Cnoic. That's what I've been doing, thinking of other places where, you see, that's the good thing about art. Actually, you can create images of places that you're, to cheer yourself up in a way.
And revisit old memories, places where you would have been before on residencies, or places that your own work would have, that you would have covered in the past, that there's an element of being able to revisit it at this time when you are sort of isolated as well.
Yeah, that's right. So I'll just move on. Okay, so there's a lot of them. They're mostly kind of abstract pieces, but I slipped in a blackboard there. If you can see, the next
Beautiful.
one is a close-up of a blackboard. But it's yeah, like little things like the song of the blackboard is lovely to hear in the evening, type of thing. So maybe with this lockdown, we're all kind of noticing little things that we'd forgotten in the
Yeah,
right.
I think a lot of people did notice. I live near the Dodder, and just seeing people watching the heron, and even the sort of the foxes got so used to people being around that they kind of just kept coming out, and there was this sort of element of nature melding into places that it sort of perhaps had retreated from before the pandemic.
Yeah. We have foxes nearby in our garden, not in our garden, but in a few gardens down. There's a place where an empty house and the garden has gone wild, and we can see them from time to time from the upstairs windows. So it's kind of nice like that.
They're very playful, all right.
Yeah.
I think they feature in some of your work as well in this show. Are there a few foxes in here as well? I suspected. That's beautiful, though, the color. And I know you were saying, having moved away from oil paint, the difference in the technique with watercolor. There is obviously in many cases a more subtle effect that you get, particularly with the handmade papers. But the vibrancy of the colors are beautiful in this series of work. They really are gorgeous.
Yeah. Now that looks way too big because it's actually quite a small piece, but I don't know. I think the oil painting has affected me because I often used strong, darker colors in the watercolor, where you don't really expect to see watercolor with darker colors, but I seem to keep trying to do that. So that's the next one. It's just Atlantic cliffs, but I'll just keep going, I suppose.
No, that's lovely. There's some real lovely sprays there in those as well, almost, using the watercolor to capture the sprays of the cliffs. Am I right that these again were done from memory because we were in the phase where you couldn't visit the cliffs
exactly.
again?
Yeah, they're just created in the studio. So this was kind of like morning light. That's what I thought of it, but again, it's really sort of working with color, and I kind of thought of early morning sunrise and very bright and then dark contrasts and things. So that's what I was saying, I think. But yeah, it reminded me, and this is different entirely. It reminded me of this one, which was I was working on fingerprints in 2002 when I had the show in the Ashford Gallery in the RHA. The paintings, they were all paintings. They were based on fingerprints. But I was just remembering that I used to collect them. And these are just little 1 centimeter square, little squares. And I was in the Temple Bar Gallery at the time, and I used to ask people who came to the studio, they dip their fingers in the palette and give me their fingerprints like this. And I used to just go through the fingerprints looking for interesting bits. And they kind of looked, as you're saying, they kind of looked a bit like landscapes or seascapes. Or
skyscapes. They are extraordinary. And I think before today, when we were chatting about some of the work, that idea of things that are part of the sort of the human condition, but that are actually of the landscape. I mean, definitely looking at these works, if you hadn't mentioned that they were fingerprints, I think that anybody could be forgiven for seeing very much the resonance of the Irish landscape in them. And the palette as well that you've used, I know, as you mentioned before, there's always a very vibrant. I love the blues that have occurred in your work over a long number of years. This is sort of, we call an Owen blue, but and the greens and even as you said, like from the bog works that you had done recently for the Olivier Cornet show, that there is a resonance with these works going back to the Ashford.
it's kind of strange, really, isn't it? That's like 20 years ago, and I haven't moved that much. I'm still in the same place, but yeah, it's interesting. They say sometimes they say, and that the artist paints the same picture again and again and again. You know,
but it's of you, so of course there's going to be something of you that will always come out again and again.
Yeah, yeah. Now, the next one I'm going to is totally different, as you know about this painting. But,
I do. I love this painting.
So, well, I put it in because I started off when I left college. I was very much into color and how colors work together in that, and you saw that in the fingerprints and that. But when I was involved in the anti-war movement at the time, and I was doing purely abstract paintings, but then I started doing figurative work because I didn't feel you could really say what I wanted to say, well, just by using color, you know, and that's the way I was. So I started doing a series of faces. I mean, people probably know about my work, that is my kind of portraits, but most of the time I'm interested in color and how the effects of color, you know. So this was quite a large painting. It's sort of I think it's 120 centimeters, you know, over a meter long, you know.
No, I remember that series, and what I liked about that, when you talk about abstraction and portraiture, you know, that whole series where you had done a whole, you know, a series of faces of people who had been troubled or people who were in difficulty, and you know, there were some that were very, very abstract, that you almost wouldn't even appear that you know, the facial features, and then some that were very, very photorealist, and yet together as a body of work they are quite extraordinary. They're very powerful works, and in terms of the color, but also the facial representation, I think they're, you know, they're a very an interesting part of your work that you've done over the years. And I know you and I talked about this before tonight, just the idea that you've documented very well your work over the years. So it's really nice that people who are looking at the current work will be able to look at your website and be able to see some of this work, or at Olivier's website, and see that there is, you know, there's always lovely connections between the past work and the work that you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll move on because there's one other strange one here, just for to be different again. I did a series then after the portraits. I did a series of empty fireplaces, and it was basically based on the diaspora, the Irish diaspora, really. Where I was in Donegal when I started doing this, and a lot of empty houses, and I was kind of thinking, where's everybody gone? And they left. Every fireplace, had its own kind of character, and I'm not going to dwell on these too long, but I just, because
no, but they are extraordinary. They are extraordinary, and they are a beautiful part of the work, because I think and you know, you won't say it because you're the artist and you're not going to go, oh, well, I'm great because I interrogate history and I, you know, meld it into my own story. But I think that is something very special about the work that you do. You have a kind of a great curiosity about aspects of Irish history, and then you often bring a very deeply personal part to the work, where, you know, it's either somebody that you know or a story of a place, you know, and yet it affects so many of us. You know, so many of us have stories about sitting around the fire, or for people, as you say, who've gone away. And even the chat recently with sort of improving energy in homes, that people lament this idea of not being able to have a fireplace at all in a house.
Yeah.
You see, when they're demolishing buildings where fireplaces are often left in walls up at different levels, and I think the first thing people think is, you know, who sat around that fire? What stories were there?
Yeah, that's it. Well, I just put that in because sorry, I'm not really sure why I put it in.
You put it in because you like it.
I like it. No, because people are always asking me, you used to do fireplaces. Why don't you do fireplaces anymore? And you used to do portraits, and why don't you do portraits anymore? But that's what I was saying to you earlier. I kind of followed the muse, if I can put it like that, and it's I don't know where it's going next, but I have to be open to, almost be led to where to go next. And I've been very kind of concerned about the environment in the last few years, and that's how I stopped from doing the oil paintings. This was an oil painting, and I went to do the watercolor after that. And I mean, there is a climate crisis, you'd say, and we really have to do something about it.
Yeah.
And well, the work I'm doing at the moment, it is about the environment, but I don't kind of want to be complaining all the time. I think it's nicer to actually talk about what's nice about the world we have. The wonderful way the living planet continues, despite the way humans are treating it and that. So so I'm actually going back to the rest of them are the works from this show now, and yeah, like one of the things I'm doing these days is growing, and in Harold's Cross there's a lot of people getting involved in growing vegetables and sharing vegetables and sharing their knowledge, and so we start off, I had loads of lettuces to sow, and somebody else was sowing leeks, and somebody else was sowing carrots. And then when they get past this stage of these are the seedlings, when they're kind of ready to be planted out, we kind of swap them around. And so you have some of my lettuces and I'll have some of your beetroot or whatever, and goes on like this. And there's loads of people in Harold's Cross are actually involved in this project now, and it's great. I think there's over 100 people involved in the thing. So
oh no, it's a fabulous thing, and it is the thing, I suppose, coming back to the work that you're doing at the moment, but also the idea that throughout the pandemic that these are the good things that has happened, that people are growing stuff and that they are teaching their children about planting things, and they are sharing with their neighbours. And you just have to hope that when we come out the other side of this, that the bit that we hang on to is the element of appreciating the beautiful bits that we have around us, and the things that we can do, the little changes we can do that make big changes.
Yeah,
these are beautiful. These are seedlings, are they? These are your
it's just a pattern in a way, really. They're just little paintings. It's interesting to kind of like if you got rid of some of these seedlings on this side, would it unbalance the whole composition? It's kind of it's an interesting way of playing with composition, really. But on the other hand, you have to start to work it out in advance, because it's watercolor, and those seedlings were kind of left white while I was using the darker colors, and then come back and do. Anyway,
it's art mirroring life, when you plant your seeds and they all grow up one end of a tray and not down the
other. Point, yeah. You see, I have a few blank trays as well.
Yeah, that's the frost that arrived last week.
See, when you start growing stuff, you start noticing the weather, and there's an awful lot more. Yeah, well, it's basically when you start growing stuff, you start noticing how the world works, really, and the weather is important, and
yeah,
if you sow them too early and the frost gets them, that's it, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's a whole interesting world to be involved in, and it's kind of something I've only been really involved in the last few years. Anyway, I continue on. Oh yeah, that was a kind of a night sky, but again, it's the color that I was trying to create a mood, I suppose, yeah,
it's beautiful, and it works really nicely as a collective of work as well. It's really lovely work.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many more I have. I'll just go through them, because we don't have to talk about every single one if you don't want to.
Well, hopefully people will get to see them as well, as I said, in the exhibition. And Olivier Cornet has been great at having his virtual gallery for when the show is up. And I know you will be doing something on Facebook with him at 5 o'clock on Sunday when the show opens. So if people have questions, they can ask you, or they can have conversation with you. But yeah, I hope people will get to see it in person.
Yeah, well, it is very important. Like, the problem with seeing stuff on the internet all the time, it's just the size of your screen, and like, you know, it's nice to see the work in real life. It can be, you know, you can go, you mightn't realize what size this is, like, and especially if you're looking at it on your phone or whatever, it's always the same size. It's just the size of the phone. Where if you walk into a gallery, it has a totally different impression, you know.
Yeah, and to be able to see the techniques as well, and kind of get up close and personal with it, particularly actually with watercolors, and, you know, to see the way the paper and the paint has interacted under your maestro hand.
Well, that's a closer up. I was kind of thinking of the fires on Midsummer's Night. That's what these ones were based on, you know. And then this is much paler. It's actually rain, which is very important. I suppose, I think the next one, you see, it's just, there's no actual paint on that at all. It's just holes in the paper.
Oh,
I was
wow.
playing around with that for a while. This is a classic example of it. You can hardly see that on the screen. I had an awful job taking a photograph of it, but yeah, it's interesting. It would be amazing to actually do a painting without any paint, just the paper. I don't know. There's something very special about watercolor paper.
Yeah.
And yeah, just the torn edges and holes in it. Well, you do see prints that are made with just impressions, you know, embossing and that. But,
and I have to say, there is something very beautiful and tactile about the papers. You know, having worked in a print studio, you know, you can become a total, you know, paper nerd, you know, going, you know, looking at thicknesses and textures and the way the fibers react. But there's a longevity, I think, with, you know, a lot of people sort of treat watercolors and works on paper as if they are, you know, very, very precious. And I know they are more delicate in some ways than, you know, a sculpture and oil painting, but, you know, it's a medium that people, if they got up a bit closer with it and saw the versatility of it and the way it reacts with, as you say, the pigment or the color, or in this case, no color, it is, you know, it's something to behold.
Yeah, I continue. Oh, well, this one was called Ballinskelligs. I was thinking of when I did a residency down in Kilreelig. It's just the idea of I don't know, you know, Kilreelig it's right on the Atlantic, just on a cliff almost above the Atlantic, and gannets flying by and things like that. It's just place I'd like to go back to.
I was going to say, when you're saying it, it's like dreaming of it. It's like, oh yes, Ballinskelligs, what a beautiful place. I'd love to be there.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, so just a few more close-ups of the pieces in that.
That's lovely as well.
Kind of the clips and that, whatever.
Yeah. I think the medium actually, you know, is very good for catching some of the, I suppose, the the essence of you know, the water or the spray that you've captured within the paintings.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Close to the end now. I only finished this painting recently, actually. It was based on, you know, the kind of yellow. Well, the idea started off with, you know, that orangey yellow lichen on rocks in the west, you know, and maybe on standing stones and that. So you start off with a kind of an idea like that, and maybe see how you can. I felt like this was like a standing stone. And in fact, that's the kind of, I know I was making pieces that looked like windows, but I also was kind of thinking they looked like, you know, not dolmens, but standing stones, I suppose. Yeah, even though they're extra colorful. But the color there was based around the idea of lichens on rock, you know.
Oh no, they're very much of the Irish, you know, the Irish landscape in terms of the colours and things. They really are.
And this is the last one now, yeah. I called the Garden of Remembrance, and it was basically, you know, remembering all the people who died during this pandemic. Really, I don't know. It's been very difficult, really, hasn't it? And it's hard to know what to say about it or what to do about it. And
no, but I think it's a really nice thing to market. Speaking to another artist recently, and we were saying how there is this almost like this kind of pent up sense of loss that actually I think it's only when we come out the other side of the pandemic that people will really be able to voice some of the things that they have been you know, dealing with both within their own families and their friends and just collectively as a people, you know, the number of people that have been lost globally. So it's only natural that it would be something that you would handle in the work.
Yeah. So that's the last piece of the slideshow. I can stop sharing if you want. Yeah.
Well, Eoin, I have to say it's been beautiful. I mean, obviously, I feel like just you and I are sitting down chatting about art, but I hope, I know Olivier will be sharing the in conversation through the gallery for people who can't come and see the work, or, you know, certainly in the early weeks, they will be able to have a look at the work through the virtual space on the Olivier Corney Gallery. But to hear you speaking about the work is also really important, because just to get that voice of the artist and why you made the work, and as you say, some of the stories behind the inspiration on them. I've always felt that, you know, Irish storytelling and, you know, the element of some of the background history that you absorb both within your work as an inspiration, but also the personal side that you bring to it is also a very important part of the work. And I've always found it was a special part to appreciating the work for me. So I would hope that the public, when they look at it, will enjoy hearing about that too. Will you hopefully share a few blogs with us over the weeks ahead on your WordPress blog, Siar Dalian?
I will. That's me.
Very
That's
good.
the address now. I'm going to stop sharing. Yeah. Well, I have the blog once a week, comes out on Thursdays, and I continue to write about it during the exhibition time. Yeah. Yeah.
Super. And I would urge people to have a look at your site as well. As I said to you earlier on, looking at eoinmaclochlainn.com, I found it really interesting. You had previous interviews, you had all those lovely exhibitions that it was really lovely to visit them again, you know, albeit virtually. And I do look forward to seeing the work in the flesh in the gallery. So I wish you the best of luck with it. And just to say thanks again for today, and to tell people it's on till the 19th of May, so they have to go and see it. So best of luck with it. It's beautiful work. You've been busy during the pandemic in the studio.
Thanks very much, Jackie.
Thanks, Eoin.
Hello, everyone. That was absolutely lovely, this conversation with Jackie. It's my second time listening to it. I could go on and on listening to it again.
Yeah, she's very nice. Yeah.
We're getting lovely
loads of
comments.
art as well, yeah.
We're getting lots of really nice comments. I suppose one that keeps coming back. It's about the way you composed those multifaceted paintings, the grouping of those sort of small paintings into a large painting, and the result of which we can now see. I was just wondering, you know what they say about, artists saying, when do you know a painting is finished? And I was wondering about that. Did you sort of, assemble them, let them rest for a while, come back to them the following day? How did you work on them, composing them?
Yeah, well, they would have happened over a short period, I suppose, a few days. I would have, you see, even during the day, they look different at night. I often work at night as well, so the light is different. So when you're looking at them at night, they're not the same. When you come back the next morning and say, I thought that was working, but actually I prefer it to, prefer to need to change it around again. So yeah, I might have, let's say, half of the pictures assembled, and there'd be, first of all, I'd be moving them around. There'd be nothing stuck down. I'd be just kind of, because I was doing these small pieces over a long period, really, just kind of do a small piece every day, a few pieces, plenty pieces every day. And I noticed that, yeah, these are kind of similar. They could go together, but and then some of them, there's something wrong in this corner. I better and maybe try something else and see how that works. It's interesting in a way, you can, because if you were painting one picture, like, you'd have to stick with your pattern, but when you can move them around until you're happy, it's it's just another way of working to create a large piece. You can take a piece and put it there and see if it works, and if it doesn't, look for another piece that might work instead and try that. So it's real trial and error until it seems to work.
Yeah, I've just displayed this one that I think it's one of your favorite paintings in the show. And I remember when we were installing it during the week, we installed the exhibition, I think on Wednesday evening, if I remember well. And we started talking about that painting. And for me, and obviously you've been working with my gallery for a while now, but obviously I didn't know you were an abstract painter, and that painting for me, and obviously the others as well, is really a nice condensé of your practice over the years. The combination of abstract and semi-abstract, even portraits with the foxes and the birds. But this one in particular for me has a special meaning because it reminds me of a very recent exhibition that you had in the gallery, and you're talking about your concern for the environment. And for me, it's very reminiscent as well of the Unquill installation for your Dera 4 solo exhibition that was back in 2018, I think. And looking at that painting, it all makes sense to me. And that's why I hope we'll be able to show your exhibition in the gallery. I mean, the show is there in the gallery. It's just a matter of knowing when we'll be able to reopen the gallery for people to see it, to see the work in the flesh.
Yeah, I had there's an echo, is there?
No, I think we're okay.
Okay. I hear an echo, but don't worry. I had some of those pieces from Derriford, that exhibition you mentioned there. I had some of them in the studio on the wall or whatever, and yeah, that's why I was happy to kind of include them, because it sort of links between this exhibition and the last exhibition. But that piece you're looking at now started off with the idea, as I was saying to Jackie, lichens on rocks. I'd just love to be over sitting on a rock in Connemara someplace, looking out at the ocean. But it's that kind of idea, really. When there's loads of lichen, it means that the air is much cleaner, much purer. And it feels like that over when you're facing the Atlantic. It just feels fresher, that's where the idea for that painting came from.
Yeah, we're getting more questions now from people. Paul Leach, hi Paul, how are you? Please talk about the map, the proportions of the tableau, composed groupings in advance or post hoc. I think we've actually touched on that, right?
What we've been talking about, really. Yeah, I just it's, as I say, trial and error. I think. I mean, it's kind of a different way of composing a large piece. You know, you can take a piece and stick it near the top, or no, it doesn't work there. Stick it down and the side, and yeah, no, maybe it's better there. Or you know, you can move things around before the final result. So that's the way it worked.
And that's a great privilege working with watercolors, where you cannot correct your errors, at least by working with different sort of fragments. It's one way of being able to change your mind, I suppose, in a way, in terms of composition. So that's an interesting aspect as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably one of the reasons why I was doing it, really.
Mona, I would like to know the type of paper you're using.
Mona?
Yes.
That's my sister. Oh, yeah, Mona. This one's called Fabriano paper. It's been on. Sometimes I use Arche paper, you know, watercolor paper from France. But it's Fabriano paper I've been using. Yeah.
I'm actually looking at the time, and you know why I'm looking at the time right now? TG Cahill, TG4 was actually in the gallery yesterday, and they interviewed you. So it's only a matter of time. In 10 minutes or so, I think you're going to be in the news, in the 6 o'clock news, right?
Unless something much worse happens. Yeah, it's possible. It can't be on the news. It's going to be on TG Car at 7 o'clock. The news in Irish, I think, starts actually before 6. So you might have missed that.
Right. Well, hopefully there's a podcast somewhere, you know. I just wanted to say as well, as I said at the start of this, obviously we hope that we'll be able to reopen the gallery before the end of your show, which is running until the 19th of May. Until then, there's obviously the virtual space as well. So people can actually look at, I suppose, a different rendition of your exhibition in that space. What I'd like to say as well, if for whatever reason we're not in a position to reopen the gallery before the end of your show, your exhibition will be reinstated in August this year. So I hope that will make everybody's day today, knowing that no matter what, the public will get a chance to see your exhibition in the flesh in August this year. I've decided not to put up any new show in the summer months, so that any exhibitions that was sort of that ended up being virtual only during spring will get a second chance. So there's hope there.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
I don't know if we have any other questions right now. But if not, I'd like to thank everybody for attending. Unless, Owen, you want to say something else as well, and obviously to thank Jackie.
Yeah, Jackie was great. Yeah, thanks, Jackie. But I also want to thank people from all over the world. Well, not exactly, but there's people in America, even Jennifer and
Canada.
Aideen Shantcarl in Kalamazoo. And I'm not sure, I haven't seen all the comments yet, but it's lovely to hear that people dropped in to see this event. Yeah. So thanks very much for that. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, everyone. And again, we've provided all the links to the exhibition page on our website, on the gallery's website there. And there's a link to the show in the virtual space as well. So take a look, and sure, we'll take another look at all the comments as well. And if we've missed any questions tonight, I'm sure we'll be able to take a look at them and respond one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see there, Paul Leach was asking about the proportions. And I didn't really, it might have been to do with being in your Georgian space, the space in your room with the tall windows. They remind me of these kind of tall windows. you know, in a way, I just, they're sort of as, yeah, I can't really, I just did them like that. I can't explain why they're that size or that shape. Maybe the windows in your galleries is the reason.
The influence of the space of a gallery space on artists, that's always an interesting one. I must say the show looks absolutely fantastic in the gallery, so that's why up until now only 3 or 4 people have seen it, obviously. I mean, you know, so I really hope that we'll be able to, but again, there's always August if May is no option. So yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you again, everyone, and I think we'll leave it at that. And sure, and I know, Owen, you'll be writing about the show in your blogs, in your weekly blog anyway. And sure, the gallery will be online as well, and I'll be showing more images of your work on social media. And again, take a look at the virtual space. The show looks interesting there as well. It looks different, obviously. And I'd like to thank everyone again for taking the time tonight to attend. And I hope everybody's safe. And it's goodbye from us right now, and talk to you soon. And Owen, again, thank you so much for your work and for the trust and all the work over the years for the gallery. And I shall talk to you soon.
Okay. Long goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Right.